We're broadcasting. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to Adventure on So Many Levels. We're playing Root, the role playing game.
Yay!
I'm Christiana Ellis, and I am the game master. Our players tonight Paul Weimer as Arbin Ironwing,
This treehouse is going to be nothing but trouble now.
Nobilis as Lancelot Vent,
Why should it be different than anything else?
David Archambault as Nigel Farnboot,
This might wind up being a treehouse of horrors, actually.
and Lee Burdett as Peppa Pika.
Uh, insert random Pokemon quote here.
And we hope to have Jason Banks as Clem Sparrow join us as the session is in progress. But for now, let's talk a little bit about what happened when last we left our vagabonds, which was longer ago than we usually would prefer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Arbin had convinced the vagabonds to actually I think I had already Peppa on side to investigate this mysterious treehouse that Peppa had found this secret door into that suggested it is not an abandoned treehouse at all, but being used for possibly nefarious purposes. And I think we're about to run into those nefarious purposes as we speak.
Yes, so
Mm.
certainly. Oh, yes?
And before that, we implemented the plan to help to at least give a proof of concept of curing the blight,
hmm
or at least keeping it blight from spreading.
Yes, you assembled the materials necessary to prepare a small amount of this special solution that you believe will cure the blight, but you only have enough to treat a small area of a field as a proof of concept. But you have applied that, and now the next couple of days will tell the tale of whether or not your solution is effective or not. If it is, then certainly there will be lots of people interested in how more can it be obtained. And so hopefully that will be helpful. But you also have some various other plot threads dangling, like the fact that the Corvid conspiracy, in order to make up for what you're claiming responsibility of killing one of their people, you have agreed in principle to assassinate a Marcusate count. Seems like you're not really into that, but the problem is that very dangerous people have been told you told very dangerous people that you would, and so it's certainly up to you whether you follow through or not. But there will be consequences either way. Is the point?
Yeah.
And certainly you have been being followed by a magpie even here in Patchwood. But yes, right now in the city of Patchwood, there are these big areas where old growth trees with Erie Dynasty tree houses from generations past are all set up and have not been maintained in decades and are pretty much falling apart. But indeed, as we left off last time, Nigel, Lancelot, and Arbin had just entered one of these derelict houses through what was clearly a disguised entrance that was made to look as though it was boarded up, but could actually be opened on a hinge. And you were checking that out because someone, as evidenced by the trail of cleared dust immediately inside the window, someone has been here. But at the same time, this house is creaking ominously with your every footstep. Meanwhile, Peppa and Clem are staying watch outside, where you're up in the tree at the base of the treehouse, but still way up in the tree itself. So, as we begin, Lancelot, Arbin, Nigel, you have just discovered that even taking a single step within this bedroom seems to produce an eerie groaning creak, and it sags more than you would like. What would you like to do?
Um, I look to Arbin.
I can't hover. That's not what I do.
Yeah.
but, I mean, I can kind of flit from spot to spot. That might make me the best
Well-
scout for that.
Also, if you fall through the floors, you're a whole lot better off than I am.
Oh,
Very
and-
much so.
and very much so for our capybara friend. Yes. All right. So I will take point and scout.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you fall through the floor, it's like, okay, don't step there. If I fall through the floor,
It's okay. I don't sit there, but you're hurt.
but I'm gonna ruin a really nice banjo.
Yeah, I mean, you just got the thing, so we can't have that happen.
Yes, and ruin a really nice friend too.
Yeah, but he's more concerned about the banjo. Gotta have your priorities.
Priorities, dude, priorities. Come on. All right, let's look around
Yep,
here.
yep. So I'm basically going to try to play hopscotch here. I know I can't hover. Not even Peppa can
Well,
hover.
I
I bet I can move like pop, 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 and
Mhm.
try to follow the tracks that way.
right, but I
Make you
can't hop.
fluttering.
I'm saying,
Well,
man,
no,
so
but
I'm-
walk so that I can walk behind.
What I would like to suggest is to begin with, let's have one of you, perhaps Arbin, if he's taking point, make a read a tense situation roll
And that is
with cunning.
cunning, which I just increased this last session. So see how that goes.
Hmm.
That is an 8.
Okay, with an 8, you are able to ask one question from the list, which is, what's my best way out in through? Who or what is the biggest threat? Who or what is most vulnerable? What should I be on the lookout for? Who is in control here?
There's not a lot of who's.
My
that we know
best
at the
way
moment.
through is probably
Best
I
way through,
mean,
yes.
certainly
Yeah.
that is the context that
Yeah.
we use to introduce the move here. So,
Yep.
yeah.
so I think in this context, by looking carefully at the room and the floor around you, you realize that probably your best bet is to try to stick to the parts of the construction that are more reinforced, right? So to try to, if possible, avoid the places where you have a long floorboard that doesn't have anything else directly supporting underneath, places where you
Oh.
have more than one piece kind of coming together, spreading your weight over, more than one individual area so that no one piece is supporting all your weight at the time. And so I think you are able to kind of point that out as tactics as people move forward. So you can look down and you can see where the nails are in the floorboards to know where they are, affixed to some other piece instead of,
Yeah.
open beneath. And so as a result, you can have a +1 going forward to try to make your way through without causing
Disaster.
additional
Yeah.
damage. Do you have connections with anyone else that would allow them to also take that that +1?
Let's see. No, that's blow. Yes, I have with Nigel. If I share information with them after reading a tense situation, you both benefit from the +1.
Okay.
If you help them while they attempt to rogue his feet, you gain choices on the help move as if you mark 2 exhaustion when you mark 1 exhaustion. So Nigel definitely is going to get the benefit of that.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it passes on, but Nigel has the same one for Lancelot.
Oh,
Does-
okay.
does that daisy chain?
Similar text.
Is that commutative? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think that
All
makes
right.
sense in this
So-
context. Yeah.
So I think that establishes our marching order.
Yep.
Yeah,
Arbin,
yeah.
Nigel, Lancelot.
It's like
Yeah.
step where I step, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so this particular entrance, this disguised entrance was it. So once again, I want to invite people to imagine that this treehouse is basically a very fancy summer like vacation house for a rich noble family that has been allowed to just decay for probably better part of 50 years, if not more.
And
s-
and has been thoroughly looted as well.
to be sure, yes, everything of any real value that ever was left behind here had. So you would imagine the original owners took anything that was just easy to pack into a crate, and they took that with them when they left. but then it has since been looted and stripped of anything else, including just people using a chisel to gouge the gold filigree out of furniture, that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Carpets are gone, curtains are gone, windows
Crown
glass
molding's
is
gone,
gone.
yeah.
right. So this place is literally a wreck and not at all safe to be in. But you have entered in what would be like an upper story bedroom.
Okay.
And so as you are proceeding through there, you would be going into, again, this upper level hallway that seems to have several other doors along it. And then that's in one direction. And then in the other direction, you can see it continues on a little bit further before there's a set of stairs that would go down.
Which way do the tracks go?
That is a good question. You see tracks going in both directions.
Of course. All right,
Let's check this floor first before we go
Yeah.
downstairs, not leave
Good
any
idea.
friends behind us. So
Yes,
yeah, so
good
I think
idea.
we're heading for the doors.
So the other thing that I'll certainly remind you of that would be impossible to ignore for those of you there in the room is that every step you make, even when you are being careful, is
Yep.
creaking and groaning, and it's the sort of thing where
Yeah, the advantage of surprise is lost. That's
there's just
Yeah.
not going to be hiding your presence from anyone else who's here. It's just
let's
not
just
gonna
hope that they are away on business.
or
So-
inferior in weaponry and arms.
Right. So you do see that there are at least some disturbances in the dust on the floor going to each of these upper story doors. Some of them seem more trafficked than others, but none of them are completely undisturbed. And so you're just gonna kind of
I'm gonna do- yeah,
systematically check them.
Systematically check them all.
Okay.
There's no reason not to.
Sure. I think that as you, we'll say that there's 3 more on the one side there, and as you check the first 2, you see that as you open the door, it is sort of just another bedroom. And in one of them, you see some sort of like straw mattresses that look like they may have been set up with bedrolls at some point, maybe recently, within like, in a scale of months, but not with anything on it that leads you to believe that someone was there even in the last couple of days.
Older than the tracks.
Right. So what you see are tracks that go a few feet into the room and then turn around. So
And
like
somebody
maybe
was-
someone is
yeah.
patrolling it and just checking the rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the door at the end of this hallway opens into a closet. And in that closet, you see shelves that show regular use, meaning there are a couple of rolled up bedrolls in there,
Mm-hmm.
and you also find what looks like a lockbox, about 2 feet wide, 1 foot, maybe 18 inches deep, and then a 1 foot tall, and it's got a pretty sturdy lock on it. And there's a few other just miscellaneous supplies that look like they're packed up neatly into this closet to be out of the way, but those show more regular use. And as I mentioned, that lockbox looks like it's been used recently.
I might be able to pick that, but I wonder if we want to find out more before we go looting.
Yeah. I'd rather not just have us huddling around this trying to get unlocked and let's get bushwhacked. But
That
we'll make a
too,
note
but-
of that. We'll make a note of that. Yes, we have a lockbox here to investigate. And
Yeah, because
go
if we meet somebody we want to be friends with, it'll be a whole
yeah,
lot harder to
we
do
lose
if
your
we're carrying their
lockbox.
lockbox.
yeah.
Yeah. So let's keep looking.
So as you're all kind of looking into that closet and having this conversation, your speech is interrupted by an ominous, loud creaking sound that was not made by one of the 3 of you.
Look around.
behind us toward the room we came in at.
Yeah. And you look back and you don't see anything. And
Okay, well,
as
maybe
you are
elsewhere in the
listening,
house.
you're listening carefully, I would imagine, to see if there's
Yes.
Mhm,
Oh,
mhm.
yes.
you hear a little bit of a like but it's really hard to get a fix on like what direction it's coming from. It kind of feels like it's coming from every direction and you don't see anything or anyone.
Hmm.
Curious.
Let's move on to the next room.
Yeah, let's keep looking around.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you two go into the room. I'm gonna stay in the hallway in case this creeping comes
Well,
into focus. I think I'll
how many rooms are there on this floor?
There's one more in the wing that you started to look at
Okay.
first, and then the other way is the way that goes to the stairs.
okay. So one
Okay,
more room.
So let's, yeah, okay,
You two take the room. I'll take this. I'll take the hall.
okay.
Very good.
All right. So as you go into that room, you see that there are tracks that go into that room more regularly. It's a bit like the one where you saw the straw mattresses that hadn't been used in a while, but these seem like, although there's no bedroll or anything on it now, it still it looks like it's been accessed more thoroughly more recently, and having found some of the like rolled up bedrolls and such in the closet, I think it's a reasonable conclusion for you to come to that this might be a situation where when somebody stays here, they pack up the stuff out of the room and put it back in the closet when they're done, rather than leaving stuff out. But this one looks like someone in the last couple of days, perhaps even earlier today, could have been in here. A lot of the room is still dusty, but there's still use. There's tracks that kind of go into, and enough that there is like, it's not even footprints or anything like that. It's just there's like an area
Path.
that's been cleared,
Yeah.
leading to those mattresses, and in fact leading to just about up to the window there, where you can see, because it's so dark otherwise, it's obvious that in the way that this particular window is boarded up, unlike most of the windows, there is one particular gap of a few inches right at about maybe average eye height in that particular boarded up window.
Uh-huh.
So somebody standing there could look out
Yeah.
onto. All right, I'm actually gonna go over to that and look out there and see like what direction does it face? Does it look out on something in particular, like the fortifications or the mayor's house, or where is there? What can I see from that position?
Right. Please make for me a trust fate roll.
Uh-oh.
Okay, okay.
Would this be with a +1 or not? Is this relating to not following through?
You know what? Yeah. Go ahead and use it for that.
Okay, okay. So
Just because
that,
I kind of like, because I gave you the +1, I kind of just stopped making you roll for it at all. So like
okay.
the +1 was
so,
kind of moot because I just wasn't even calling for the roll. But
so I got a 6 + 3 is 9.
okay. So what you find as you are approaching the
Window.
the window, there's just a split second where you recognize, actually, okay, so you got a 9, which is a mixed trust fate.
Yeah.
Let me just double check. So for trust fate, when you get a hit, you scrape by or barrel through, but it costs you. And I think what happens is that you are stepping forward to look out the window, and all of a sudden, one of the floorboards that is right by the window just completely gives way under your foot. Not even in a rotten, like splintering way, but like it was designed to break free.
Okay.
And I think that I yeah, you know what? I think in this context, you are lucky enough that you are only
Fall
barely just
through.
on it, and so I think you kind of scrape up your leg. Up,
Okay.
there we go. Do we have? There's Jason. Welcome. Although I still need to get everyone in the right place. So I think you do scrape up your leg, and so I'm going to ask you to take a point of injury or mark a box of wear on one of your pieces of equipment.
I think I'll take the injury.
Okay. Um, let's get everyone in their correct spots. And sorry, one moment, everyone. There we go. So you scrape up your leg as you kind of fortunately were not entirely on what looks now to be a cleverly designed trap door. And
Right.
as you sort
There's
of
like
scramble,
extra nails poking in on this
yeah,
spot.
and
Yeah.
as you scramble back, there's you kind of take another look at it and you realize that like as the part that broke away has fallen
Mhm.
away, you see that there's clearly like someone who knows would know that if you can just sort of stand slightly legs spread a little bit, there's two stable points as long
Right.
as you're not stepping in the middle right there.
Right.
But this
Right.
this looks like someone has constructed a trapdoor designed to potentially drop someone who didn't know better all the way down to the next floor. But
Ooh.
fortunately, you stepped only half onto it, and so therefore were able
Yeah.
to kind of scramble back and not fall through.
Right. Well, if 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 somebody else is in the place, they know where we are. I want to take a brief glimpse through that window
Hmm.
to find out where it looks onto,
Yeah.
and then move back to the hallway.
Okay. As you are sort of climbing back up and standing on the two stable points that are obvious now that the trapdoor is open, you can look out the window, and sure enough, it does look out onto the fortifications, the Marcus 8 fort.
Mhm.
Right.
And you hear also as you're climbing back up out of there, you hear the sound again.
Somebody running around.
But again, like it, as you're trying to sort of keep like an ear out, like where is that coming from? It's again a situation where it feels like the sounds would be the same as if someone was just walking through the room you're in, but you don't see anyone. It feels uh, alarmingly close for you to not see any evidence of it.
Nitro would like to get on the floor and just kind of, you know, head down, see if
Mm-hmm.
maybe can get a sense of direction.
Sure, sure. I think that perhaps we can have this be another read a tense situation roll.
Okay. That is cunning. That is a 12.
Okay, yeah, that's going to be a success. So you're able to ask 3 of these questions. The standard ones: best way in, out, through. Who or what is biggest threat? Who or what is most vulnerable to me? What should I be on the lookout for?
Uh, could one of the questions be what direction is the sound coming from,
Well,
or above or below?
I mean that's kind of not.
Or
I
no?
think
Okay.
I know what you're looking for, but please try to frame it all into one of those questions.
Okay. Let me.
Because I guess what I'm telling you is it's too hard to tell, but I can give you other answers.
Okay. What should I be on the lookout for
Mhm.
regarding this noise?
Okay. So, what you should be on the lookout for in this context is if the sound sounds like it's in the room with you and yet you can't see them, it seems unlikely that there's someone who's invisible. So what it means is that there's got to be something other than the rooms that you're in that people can move through. Perhaps there are passages through the walls or the floor.
Okay. And what would be the best way into those passages if there are some?
Well, as a matter of fact, it just so happens that one of your comrades has recently almost fallen through a hole in the floor. And although it doesn't seem that that trapdoor was intended to be an access point, it is actually at least an obvious close by available option that would probably allow you to at least verify if there is indeed space between the floors.
Okay. And can I identify who is in control here or get any more details?
Okay. Well, so what is clear to you now, I think, based on hearing the sound and based on seeing not only the constructed secret entrance, but a spy point and an obviously designed trap, which is distinct from the house falling apart anyway, someone is not just squatting here, but doing something, right?
Yeah.
And who's in control? Seems like that person is.
Okay.
Now, with the context, though, that if they had enough people to just fight you all off, they don't
They
seem to
probably
be
would
doing
just
that.
fight.
They seem to be
Yeah.
sneaking around.
Okay. So I would share all of this with both Lancelot and Arben. I think that there are passages other than there are hidden passages around here. I'm guessing that we might be able to access it through that hole. And I don't think that there are that many people around here if there are, because otherwise they would just confront us directly.
Do you think they're sneaking around these hidden passages between floors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Him, her, they, whoever. So if we want to get to the root of them, pun intended, we should go into the passages.
Yes, likely. And
All right.
so,
Well, I'm the one closest, so I'm gonna bend down and look through that hole that I made
Okay.
and see what I can see.
All right. Well, before we follow up on that, welcome, Jason, as Clem. Clem and Peppa had been waiting outside. What are you up to while they explore the interior of the house?
I think, as far as Peppa is concerned, that she stayed outside to help Clem keep a lookout. So occasionally she's going to try to stealth her way around the building to see if there's anything else that she can see. I.e., somebody trying to sneak in from a doorway that she did not find.
Sure. Well, I think that would probably be your own read a tense situation roll, and I'll also just I'll remind you that previously, when you were first making your attempt up here, you had specifically noticed that your magpie person following you definitely saw you going up here and looked annoyed about it and then flew away somewhere.
Right.
So that would be certainly something probably on your mind as you look around.
Yep.
So perhaps you can make your own read a tense situation roll.
I got a 10.
Okay, there you go. So that's you get 3 questions of those. Best way in, out, through. What is the biggest threat? Who are most vulnerable to me, etc., etc.
Okay. What should I be on the lookout for?
Okay, so I think in this context, because the magpie did not fly up to this house where you were going, they
Mhm.
went somewhere else that you didn't see,
Mhm.
right? So I think your biggest concern would be that they maybe had gone to go alert someone, perhaps, about what you were doing. You would want to be aware if there is any kind of evidence that you have someone else coming in after, or just even any sort of attempted communication. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Is the Corvid conspiracy the biggest threat here?
Well, certainly, who or what is the biggest threat, right? So
Yeah.
I think in this context, I think that you believe that if the Corvid conspiracy is using these houses as kind of hideouts, they are likely to be the most dangerous version of what might be going on here, right?
Right.
Especially given that, in addition to your own personal conflicts with them, they not too long ago blew up the fort here. So they clearly have not only a presence, but the capacity to carry out plans, right? And so you think that well, at the same time, I think it's also possible from another perspective to see the Marquisate as the biggest threat, in the context that if they were to associate you all with any of the stuff going on in that regard, they would probably be even more dangerous to you than the Corvid conspiracy.
Okay. Can I save a question?
I mean, not
Not really.
not
Okay.
really.
No, that's
That's
fine.
kind of not. I mean, because the whole point is that you have done a check right now, and this is the information you're getting.
Okay. In that case, who or what is most vulnerable to me?
Okay. I think that the there's not a lot right now that you see that is actively vulnerable to you. But what I would say is that you have found that there are enough nearby perches that, as long as you're kind of maintaining awareness, you don't believe anyone else could get to the treehouse from outside without you seeing them.
Okay.
All right. What about you, Clem? What are you doing while Peppa's flitting around?
Can we hear the same sounds that they're hearing on the inside, or are they too far away from us?
I think you probably hear some amount of creaking and groaning, but you wouldn't hear it with the same sort of
Regularity, like we
right.
wouldn't. More than likely, we'd probably think it was just them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, so you're clearly hearing what sounds like activity in the house. Like, if you're listening carefully, you're hearing the creaking and groaning. It sounds like people moving around in a rotting old house.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that you had briefly touched on last time was that there are other entrances other than that upper story bedroom window secret entrance version. It's just that they had all been boarded up. So you had briefly talked about the idea of investigating, like, the servants' entrance or something like that. But
Is one of the other boarded up entrances on the level that Pep and I are on?
well, Peppa has been flying around, but there's one, where you are, and it's just that it's it looks pretty thoroughly boarded up, But then again, so had the the window that Peppa found, except that that one was, you know, a trick, right? It was a
Yeah.
disguise.
Um, then I want to check out. I want to check that out.
Okay.
Um, to see one, if maybe there was an easier way to get in, but two, if we missed one,
Mhm.
because if we missed one, then someone could be hiding.
Sure. So go ahead and, you know what? Make just a cunning roll. This is sort of like a version of. Uh, you know what? I'm good. Just roll cunning. This is a slightly pared down version of tense situation, because just applied more specifically.
I got a 9.
Okay. I think that you find that uh, this door, this servant entrance, you sort of like feel around at the boards up around it, and they feel pretty secure, right? Like it doesn't just open on a hinge the way that that other window did. But while you are looking at it, you do see like what look like some scuff marks leading up to it. Like something heavy was like dragged there, but at the same time the boarded up entrance feels like it feels solid and secure, like it's just boarded up and it's on there. So
Do the scuff marks seem to go under it at any point, or maybe or does it just look like something was pulled up to it?
uh it could be either. It's not that it obviously passes underneath, but it does look like at least something heavy was dragged right up to it.
Well, is everyone still trying to be stealthy?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you're there, you're down there all by yourself at the moment, Clem. So.
Yeah. Well, Clem kind of looks around a little bit. I don't see anybody. He's going to try to pry it open with his hammer.
Okay. So what I'm actually going to have you do here is you have the Roguish Feet disabled device, I believe, right?
Yes.
I'm going to have you attempt a Roguish Feat based on disabled device.
I think that's finesse.
Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah, that's a 6. Well, no, well, +1, 7. So.
Okay. So with a attempt a Roguish Feat, on a 7 to 9, you need to either mark 1 box of exhaustion or accept that there will be one risk of this, and the risks for disabled device might be that you might break something, draw unwanted attention, or expend resources. And I would pick, or you can pick mark exhaustion to avoid anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna mark exhaustion on that one.
Okay. As you start to work at it with your hammer, like you're going to pry it open, there is just enough motion as you go to pry at it that kind of gives you this intuition. And you inspect around it a little bit more, and you discover that it is, in fact, another entrance that's designed to open on a hinge like the upper window, except that this one clearly has some kind of a locking mechanism on the inside. So whereas the window one can just swing open, this one has a mechanism designed to hold it closed unless opened from the inside. But once you realize that, you have a number of little tools that you can apply to a situation such as this. And in this context, although pick lock is a separate roguish feat, you also have that one. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of apply it in this context. And it is also, it's not really a traditional like key in a lock in any case. There is a sort of a weight, counterweight thing that holds it closed pretty firmly, which is why it, like if someone was just going to like shake at it or pull at it, it would feel secure. But you find that you are able to reach in a little hook and get it around the cord where that counterweight is, and tug on it just enough that you are able to disengage the latch and have it swing open without breaking it.
Nice. Now does it open? I'm assuming it opens outward.
Yeah.
So to give the impression that it was nailed shut.
Mm-hmm.
Then I will shimmy my way and look into. I won't go inside, but I will look in to see what I see.
Okay. As you are pulling open this entrance, like I said, it's on a weight, right? So unless you prop it open, the weight is going to pull it back closed after you.
Right.
Are you propping it open, or are you going, or are you just holding it open and looking inside?
Actually, I'll put myself in the doorway,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll use my shell so that way if the door shuts, it just presses up against my shell.
Okay.
Oh, it's
And,
a turtle shell, not a clamshell.
yeah. And so what you see in there, Clem, is this is a room which, when the house was in its original use, was probably like a servant's quarters and workroom, like an area where they would probably, like take laundry and do other sort of miscellaneous tasks and everything. Like it's not the kitchen, but it's where lots of other sort of servant maintenance work might
Okay.
take place. But what you see in here are a number of like workbenches that seem to have had relatively recent use on them. And although they have been cleared of most of the equipment that would have been on them, there is just enough lingering like residue and what is left behind on it that your tinker senses, give you a little bit of a tingle to tell you someone was working on explosives in this room.
Oh,
And so, Peppa, I think you probably do spot Clem standing in the doorway there, just so you would be aware that that's happening at least.
Come thinks to himself.
Muted.
Oh yes, I made it.
Oh, no, you weren't muted,
Yeah,
Clem,
yeah.
but I think Lee was muted.
Oh.
I kind of want to have Peppa like perch on the door and look in upside down right over Clem's head, just to peek in.
And Clem just says, "Don't give me ideas."
So, meanwhile, let's cut back up to Arbin, Nigel, and Lancelot. Lancelot, so because of the location of this trapdoor, you would probably be like on your hands and knees in the center of the room, approaching it to kind of look down, upside down a little bit, like a match cut with Peppa looking in the doorway upside down. Nobilis?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Repeat that, please.
As you are trying to look through this trapdoor, I was just asking you to. I think we probably have a little bit of a match cut of Peppa looking through the doorway upside down to Lancelot trying to look through this trapdoor upside down.
Okay.
So the
So-
first.
So I turn back up and look to Arbin and Nigel and say, no, it doesn't lead to a secret passage.
Okay. I mean, I didn't say that. I was just kind of describing the visual as we go in. Are you
Yes.
wanting to say that anyway?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I was looking there, is because Nigel said it might lead to a secret
Okay, well,
passage,
but
so-
my point is, I had not said yet whether it does or not.
No, yeah, and now
Okay.
I know that it doesn't. And that's why I tell them.
No, you don't know that it doesn't because I haven't said that it doesn't.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
just
All right.
describing you approaching it to check. That's
Okay.
all.
All right.
But what you do see immediately is you see, first of all, that had you fallen all the way through it, it would have been a profoundly unpleasant experience. You would have dropped something like 25 feet onto what looks like a setup array of jagged, rotten 2x4s.
Oh, that would have been really bad.
Yeah, it is, and so once again, it's all too obvious that this is a manufactured trap that you were pretty lucky to have only partially engaged instead of falling right through.
Yeah.
But you also recognize that as you are looking down through the floor is like thick, meaning the space between the floor level that you're kneeling on and the ceiling of the next floor down is probably like 3 feet.
Right.
So there's definitely enough space for there to be like a crawl space in between.
Yeah.
And so certainly based on what Nigel heard, that seems like the most likely explanation for why you were hearing sound that sounded like it was almost
Right nearby.
right nearby,
Yeah.
but you couldn't see anyone. But what you don't have here is an easy way to get into that space without having to sort of like climb out upside down and try to wriggle in through a gap that was not intended for that purpose. So, like,
Yeah.
you could theoretically get in there if you were prepared to try to make a difficult roll to do so, but it doesn't
yeah,
look easy.
that's not my bag. Um, so
That's a job for Peppa.
so I'll just it's, um, sounds like the real business is downstairs, guys. Let's meet up with the rest of them.
Certainly,
Yeah,
the
mhm.
creaking sound that you're hearing in the floor has moved away from your immediate location while this is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
move down a level, I think.
I think we should keep an eye out for any other entrances to that
Less perilous
section.
ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do I see the spot that Nigel almost fell through, or is that on another part of the house?
No, in fact, actually, you are 2 levels down from them right now, because looking at this place from the outside, the lowest level has the servants' entrance, and this is where Clem has just gone in, and it's basically just one big room on that level. And then up from there is the main level of the house, where the front door is, that would most likely be accessed by flying, and like the main living spaces of the house. And then another level above that is like bedrooms and stuff, and that's where we have the rest of the party currently.
And so the hole went down to the first floor, not to the
Yeah.
servants' floor. Okay, got it.
But this is also a nice house with sort of like big airy ceilings, and so
Yeah,
like,
that's what I was gonna figure. Yeah, these are pretty high ceilings. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Rich, you're a dynasty, so it makes sense.
yeah,
And they're
flyers, too,
birds.
yeah,
You want space.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta have the ability to fly around.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay then. Let's go.
First floor it is.
All right. So, if you are making your way back over to the stairs,
Yep.
and you're on the lookout for
I am absolutely.
for access, I think what you realize is as you're on the stairs, specifically paying attention to this very question, it does in fact look like part of the wood paneling that's at the height of where that gap in the ceiling and floor would be.
Mhm.
There is part of the paneling there that does look like it it's separate from the rest of it, and you think that that would be like the gap that you can see in it. It's very clear that if this house were like in its normal sort of proper maintenance, you wouldn't see a gap. It looks like it's designed to not have a gap, but it's only the fact that everything's kind of decaying and falling apart that you can sort of see that there's a panel that's separate from the rest.
Shall we?
Let's see what's behind door number 1.
Okay.
Yeah, so is there like a
I think
obvious
this is
mechanism?
more like the third or fourth door we've come across.
Is there an obvious mechanism to open this thing?
Nothing that you can see. Like I said, it's just part of the wood paneling of the wall, except that you can sort of see, like the
see.
outline of something that looks like it would open. But there's no
Well-
mechanism or keyhole or hinge or anything.
Let's see if we can get our fingernails under it and pry it out.
This is what claws are for. Allow me. I'll try to claw it open, pull.
Okay, so I guess so in this context, then you're not trying to like cleverly discover the hidden mechanism. You are saying this
I-
thing
I-
is going to open. I'm going to make it open.
Yeah, I'm going for the brute approach. Yes.
Okay, yeah, sure. So let's have you then just go ahead and roll with might.
Roll with might.
You know.
That is
Something.
an 8.
Okay. With an 8, I think I'm going to ask you to mark a box of exhaustion.
Okay.
For the exertion, because as you like, I think probably you don't need to use your fancy sword for this, but you take just like
I
a
wouldn't
knife.
even. Yes.
Well, right. I'm just saying. But you take your like a knife just to sort of wedge it into the gap and give you some leverage and everything, and you're sort of like wiggling it back and forth to try to find out where there's any give at all. You definitely start to realize, okay, I think that this is the side that's a hinge, so the other side must be the side that swings. You start feeling like it's not going to swing out, it's going to swing in, and then ding, 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 and then you just finally pry and you hear splintering of old wood as you force it inward, and the mechanism that had held it locked, however it was meant to be triggered, it is moot now because you have busted it.
Whoops.
Well,
There is a wreck something move, by the way. But just,
oh, you know what? That's probably the move that ought to. Yeah, that's a
Have been
good
used.
point. So let me just take a look at that.
Well,
yeah,
well
so-
you did it. You worked it exactly the way it
Yeah.
works.
No, that's a good point. But especially just because the wreck something does sometimes people have moves that are specifically tied to that, and
Yeah.
so good reminder. Thank you. But yes, in any case, you have broken it. It's now swinging open on its own little hinge, but there would be no way of closing it the way it was before. And first of all, I think there's an element of that you have just like a little bit of a flash of nostalgia because you're realizing, like, yeah, having weird little secret passages in your house is totally an Eerie Dynasty thing.
Yeah, it reminds me of home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if for no other reason than because sometimes if you have noble families and such, it doesn't hurt to have like a safe room or an escape route and that sort of thing.
Mhm, mhm.
Cut off the attackers that are coming in, etc. All sorts of tactical
Advantages,
considerations.
yeah.
So what I will say though, there's no danger that you were actually going to fall, but what you find is that immediately inside, if you had barged yourself in a little bit too aggressively, you might have found yourself falling down the shaft with a ladder that is immediately inside this hatch. But you can also see that there's access to what looks like a crawl space that goes out right to where you would have expected. You don't see anyone in it at present, but like I said, there's also where you are a shaft that goes downward.
So we have a crawl space and we have a shaft that goes down, not
Mhm.
up though. It ends here, correct?
Well, you're kind of right now only just at the level between the top floor and the next floor down, right? So there's
Right.
not really anywhere else up to go. It doesn't go up to the roof.
That's what I was kind of getting at.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on the basis of our just, our imaginary narrator camera, um, observing that you in some ways were following this person who was going through the crawl space. You've now verified that they're no longer on the crawl space on this level and that there's only access to go down. We're going to cut back down to the ground, the servants level floor, where Clem and Peppa are peering in through the doorway. And I think as the two of you are standing there looking at this sort of workshop, you're just kind of standing in the doorway when all of a sudden you see a little hatch in a wall that wasn't obviously a secret opening, but now a hatch opens, and you see coming out of it is a robin in a fancy looking waistcoat that's all dusty now, who comes out looking annoyed, and then there's a moment where they kind of turn and then they spot you, and there's just a moment of,
It's not there.
uh,
Hi. Fancy meeting you here.
this is private property.
Is it? Because if it is, you're really not taking care of it very well.
This place is not safe for habitation and for exploring. I'm going to have to ask you to leave on the authority of the Mark Estate. And he's like making shooing motions. Right now, go away.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say you are not a part of the Marcus Ape.
What does that mean? Of course I am.
So how about we just relax, and my name is Clem. What would your name be?
Dale.
Well, Mr. Dale, I'm going to ask you why you're here, because it seems like these homes are meant to be torn down, not lived in. I kind of look at the work table.
Well, why don't you tell me why you're here? You're the one
Curiosity.
breaking in.
I didn't break in. If you notice, the latch is not broken.
He runs up the stairs.
He kind of looks up at Pippa. Well, I tried diplomacy.
That's not my best skill either.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask Lancelot how he does it.
Is that the same stairs that we're at, or is that a different
No,
set of
it's
stairs?
again. So if we're saying like, I think let's call it basement, floor 1, floor 2. All right.
Okay.
You are descending from floor 2 to floor 1.
Okay.
He is coming up from basement to floor 1, but it's not the same stairs.
Okay. Okay.
However, what I will say is that as you are coming down the stairs and starting to take a look around this main level, where you can see that although much of this main floor is relatively undisturbed, there is obviously a big central area where there's been a lot of activity. Like there's a big sort of like table that's set up that looks like sort of like a meeting area that doesn't have anything on it now, but it's been used recently.
Mhm.
There's various chairs that look like they've been scooted around and everything. But as you are there, you hear bump, 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 creak, and then you see across in one of the far corners, you see this same robin in a waistcoat burst out from the basement, there's another moment of him just looking over and making eye contact with you again, and just
Hello.
This poor Robin doesn't know where to go now.
yeah.
The in team, listen, the in team's trying to turn over a new leaf. We're trying, polite diplomacy
Before we
have-
kill.
Yes.
May I ask you a few questions?
Just for the sake of argument, I don't suppose you all are just stupid.
No.
Well, we have been accused of that in the past, but we don't think of ourselves that way.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's one of those questions where you're only ever going to get one answer. I guess what I'm going to say is here instead. Are you reasonable?
I think we
We
would
can
like to be.
We've been known to be persuaded to listen to reason on occasion.
Okay.
Your unreasonable members are back behind him.
So on that basis, are Peppa and Clem, would you have been pursuing rapidly as he ran up the stairs?
No.
Well, Clem would probably begin to pursue, but Clem is not rapid. So
Okay. Well, not to mention the fact that you currently have your shell wedged in
Yeah.
this weighted door, which I think you realize right now that if you were to pull it out suddenly, it would slam right on Peppa.
yeah, so Clem would try to, push it open so Peppa can go through, and then he would come in after.
All right, but you would be making your yeah. So I think as on the next level up, as Robin is having this conversation, he's starting to hear the clunk 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 coming up the stairs. Here's the other thing, Clem, that you might want to go slow is that each step you take on one of those stairs feels like you might as well be flipping a coin every time.
Yeah. When we climbed, that's one of the reasons why I didn't go inside.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually considering whether or not we actually did go inside because we did see that magpie fly off, and so having someone outside and keeping
Well,
lookout.
I mean,
But
that's
that's
why I'm
technically
asking
true,
you
though.
what you do.
Yeah, I think Peppa did not go inside. I think she's maintaining lookout outside.
Okay. So, Clem, if you went inside, the door would have closed behind you.
Okay. Let's see. Could I? Would Peppa be strong enough to open it?
Well, so the problem is you used a fancy tool to open it in a
Oh,
way
yeah,
that
yeah.
you wouldn't expect her to be able to repeat.
Yeah. Is there one of those tables or
So what I'll
chairs I
say
can
is
prop it
you
with?
can see that from the inside, the way that it's designed to work is that there is a lever that you can pull that engages some pulleys to deal with the
Okay.
weight, and then lets you just push it open, and then you release the lever and it resets, right? And so that's what you just managed to pull on the cable
Okay.
for it from outside. But so the point is that it's designed to be operated from the inside and not from the outside.
Right. I'll be back, Pippa. If there's any trouble, please yell very, very loudly.
So go ahead and roll a trust fate for me, Clem, as you start.
Oh boy.
Big box, nice. That's an 8.
Okay. I think that when you crash through one of the steps, it is fortunately not something where you fall all the way through to your death or something. It's just a matter of you have you take either a box of injury or you can mark a box of wear on one of your pieces of gear.
I'll take the wear. I think I have more wear.
Mm-hmm. All right. So in the meantime, though, you are finding that you're going to need to proceed kind of carefully up these stairs.
Yeah.
So
Clem, he's kind of grumbling as he
Yeah.
does so.
mhm. So back on level 1, we have the Robin who is hearing some of that take place, starting to look a little bit like his feathers are pretty ruffled at this point, and he's just looking at the rest of you and just saying, there are certain individuals who could make it worth your while to leave now and not say anything else about this place. By contrast, if this place is compromised as a result of your presence, they would be angry. So, how do y'all feel about that?
There is a particular magpie that has been sticking to our
Okay,
tails like
that is not
glue.
an answer to my question, and I'm afraid I require a yes or no right away.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Okay, then.
So let's, now that we know, now that our curiosity has been sated and we've got the information we came for, I think we can leave.
How would you like to roll trick an NPC for me?
You mean that's not being honest? How's that ever happen? Look at that face.
I don't think you're being honest. I mean, tell me if you think you're being honest.
I rolled a 9 and that makes 11.
Okay, so on that basis, then his the feathers on his head and neck start to like smooth down a little bit, and he says, "Okay, I would like to request that you all accompany me down these stairs right now. We're going to leave out the servants' entrance. And when you do, I will give you a card. And that card will tell you where you can meet someone and be rewarded for your compliance in this matter.
For our
But this
discretion.
needs to be right now."
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. So as you are making your way across this this open area where you can see that there's actually, like, now that you're here, there's parts of the floor on this level that seem to have been built up on, like they've added additional support in some of these areas that are
Mhm.
regularly used.
Yeah, I'm taking attention. We saw the chairs. I'm taking it all in with a tactical eye.
Mhm.
All
Yes.
useful information.
So
Is there anything that could possibly be learned from like looking at dust patterns on the tables?
I
or-
think not so only if you are taking longer than this Robin wants you to.
Okay, then there's nothing.
Okay. Because he is basically indicating, no, we're leaving right now. You are going to precede me down these stairs.
Mhm.
And all right, if we're going and you
We're
go.
going.
And so, Clem, I think you find as you've made your way up a couple of stairs that all of a sudden Arbin and Nigel and Lancelot are coming down the stairs with this Robin behind them.
Oh, well,
We're going the other way now.
yeah. And Clem's just like, whew, thank goodness. I didn't necessarily think I was going to make it all the way up. These stairs are pretty shoddy.
Yes.
It is a shame.
Yeah, such a shame, says the Robin. Let's go. We're walking, and we're walking.
God, this Robin is a New Yorker.
And Clem just goes, I know, please don't be in a hurry, because trust me, you don't want me falling through these stairs, because I think we'd all go.
You know, you say that.
Yeah.
Anyway, as I've already discussed this with your friends. This consensus is that you're leaving right now, and I will give you a card, and you will never return here.
Pause.
Let's go, Clem.
Yeah.
You see Clem's, he stretches his head and kind of, he looks back to Lancelot. Like, right. Okay. And he like starts backing back down the stairs.
Roll another trust faith.
No. You're gonna have to catch a turtle.
I
Yeah,
Oh,
I think you do literally find that you don't even have enough space to turn around. You
Yeah.
have to back down.
It's listen, I'm not using the purple die because they rolled snake eyes. Huh.
Did you roll snake eyes just now, or
No, but
Okay.
I definitely did roll a 5.
Okay.
Oh no. Oh
I
no.
all
pull.
right, yeah. So because you have Arbin and Lancelot and and Nigel right there, if one of you wants to try to
oh
help
yeah,
him,
let's help.
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he got a 5, so he needs actually 2.
I'll spend one.
Okay.
I'll spend one.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, one of the stairs kind of crunches under him again, and he starts to go over. But unlike in Blade Runner, where you don't help the tortoise, you do manage to catch him and keep him from tumbling over backwards to wreak who knows how much damage to the stairs and the floor. But you emerge back into the workshop, and once again, this Robin is like, all right,
We're
just pull the
walking.
lever right there, and we're moving, and we're moving, and as soon as he gets you sort of like, uh, uh, when it's at the point where all of you are now outside and he is standing in the doorway, he kind of, like leans against the door so it's like propped up. He reaches in, he pulls out a little card from his waistcoat, starts writing on it. Okay, so here you go, and he hands it. Who would be right there to take this card?
I think I would take it.
I think it's Lancelot. He made the deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Lancelot, you take this little card, and it says Roadhouse, 8 p.m. The person you are to meet will introduce themselves to you. I will ensure that they know that you are cooperative in this matter and that should be treated as VIPs accordingly.
Okay, Sage nod. Let's head out and get back down to the
Where's
ground.
Peppa?
Peppa's on
Well,
top of the
where's
door.
Oh, there's Peppa.
Sat on a convenient perch out.
Yeah, reading over his shoulder.
So I think as you are leaving, there's just a while where he's still got the door propped open and he's watching you make your way back down to those stairs along the tree trunk. And he watches you, and I think the observant among you will hear him cursing to himself as he allows the door to finally close, where he's staying back inside, and you are,
Right.
Hmm.
Okay. So
Well, that
Yeah.
was interesting.
mhm.
You
it's,
learned a lot.
Yeah.
mhm.
So I think as you are, you make your way back down those stairs, back down to the ground level, and you're not far out from there. Like you've only just kind of gotten clear of the patch of trees. When you hear back from behind you, from up in the direction of this tree house, you hear a sound. This is like pop, 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 creak, 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 creak. And as you look, the house is falling apart into big chunks, tumbling out of the tree.
Take cover.
Fortunately, you all seem to be. This does not happen until you are clear.
Is there anybody else around the base of the tree?
There are some people who are just on the streets, but as this starts to happen, people are able to, get away. It's not happening like instantly.
Okay.
I think that there are a couple of people who kind of need to be shouted at to get clear, but then they have time to do so.
Good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yes, as you watch, though, this house basically crumbles into pieces and falls out of the tree.
I don't think that was an accident.
No, and I feel very
No.
conflicted about the whole thing.
Also,
Well, I mean, this kind of is gonna, as far as the argument as to what should be done with these trees, will pretty much settle it for everybody, I think.
At least this one.
At least
This
for the
tree.
government. For the
Oh, no, I
workplace.
think you know, people are gonna see this as an accident, and it's gonna be an accident that could have been bad, and they're gonna, people are gonna wanna have these houses demolished.
Move towards the urban renewal, I believe is
I
the
mean,
phrase.
I'm no carpenter, but these didn't seem like they were in a situation where they could be saved.
They would have to probably be rebuilt entirely to be useful.
Yeah, so, I mean, something
The
that far
restoration.
gone.
Yeah, it hurts my heart to see them so wrecked and see it come apart before our eyes. I feel a little weird about it all.
Yeah, but
So-
that's,
But I think we should go to the Roadhouse at 8 p.m., get our reward. And well, we have identified I guess the right word is enemy agent in this town.
well,
That's useful information.
the question really is, why would we get sent here by other Corvid conspiracy people if they already had some in town?
Because we're expendable if we fail to kill.
how about we
We're-
have
we're
this
a tool.
conversation in private?
Yeah, let's have a conversation.
You're,
Let's get
we
off
are
the street
simply
to have this
players in the game of
conversation.
Jenga.
I will say that although nobody does anything or says anything about it, because the only guards nearby seem to immediately be trying to assess the wreckage and find out, like, is there anything else falling? Is that all safe or not? I think that there's a few people on the street that kind of make just enough eye contact for you to realize it's like, there are some people that saw you coming down out of that tree.
Yeah.
If they don't say anything or do anything, it's just a little bit of a,
We've been marked.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are you headed then? It's still maybe like 4 or 5 p.m.
This was my idea for the day.
Yes.
And now we ended in the destruction of our treehouse.
But we did, at least we didn't kill anyone.
We did not kill anybody. That's true. Our body count in this town is still 0.
Although, luckily, none of the residue or leftover detritus from their projects caused any further destruction. Because
That we know.
well, I found evidence that, you know, the bombs were made there.
The bombs are made there.
So first of all, where are you having this conversation? Are you like?
I think we go back to our
Oh, you mean-
rooms.
Yeah, we went
Yeah.
to
Let's go back to our
Okay,
rooms.
just wanted to clarify that. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
because we had heard the rumors of the or not rumors, but we had heard about the bombings,
Mhm.
and I found what looks like to be the leftovers of them making bombs on those work tables. Though I didn't get a super close look because, well, we ran into our Robin friend.
And you saw that the room with the trap door had a view of the fortifications. Isn't that correct, Lancelot?
Willis?
Yeah, this was clearly the hideout that they used to plan and execute the bombing of the fortress. That's
And-
obvious.
And was still being used because we saw they had bedrolls stored up, but bedrolls still there. So it was still an active site that we've inadvertently disrupted.
Yeah,
Right, but
I mean, yeah, it would have been
but
nice
it
to
had,
get.
I mean, it had already served its purpose, so.
Yeah, but there might have been information in that lockbox or something, but he's
Yes.
Robin has cleverly destroyed the evidence. But I think we should keen our quote unquote reward. It might be a trap,
Hmm.
but
Well, not if it's in the roadhouse. That's
No.
unlikely.
but
Well,
get
There were-
something out of this deal.
the only reason I even found or noticed the fact that that door was rigged to be opened was
Mhm.
that it looked like something heavy had been brought into it or drug up to it. My question is how you get away with that in such a town, especially when these trees and these houses are such a hot button topic for some people.
Perhaps there are citizens who are or denizens that are in on it, and there are particular locations of protests that might signal where other hideouts are.
We have protesters as
Hmm.
as insurgents and helpers. Yeah, that's
I
clever.
think it might be a good idea to go out and just find out what the community thinks, what the denizens here think of the marquisate. Right. Find out how, just how things are just in general. Are they, you know, are they glad the fortifications got blown up, or are they afraid of, more mayhem? Just see what people think. And
Sounds like a good idea.
we've got a few hours before our appointment. We can split up, find the social spaces, and just listen. We don't even have to like interrogate people. Just keep our ears open and hear what people have to say about things. What news people are talking about. I'm sure the blight is most of the conversation, but
Given
there might be other
time,
things.
right, and given time, we may be able to fix that for them. So that's not
Well,
super needed, but
well, it's a separate issue. It's
man, as long as they don't find out we've been messing around with figuring it out, they didn't seem too happy about that.
No.
Some people
they
No.
did not.
What did the farmers I know Clem and Nigel had the
Yeah.
most to do.
Well, so
that,
just
but-
as a reminder, in the sense that it's been a few weeks for the players, but only a day or so for the characters. I'll say that just of the people that you've talked to so far, there does seem to be a diversity of opinions about the Marquisate. But certainly a general acknowledgement that even the people who are very much in favor of thinking, I think the Marquisate could be really good for Patchwood, there's still nonetheless an acknowledgement that things aren't going very well right now.
Mhm.
Right? Like, but there would be, at least some people seem to think it's more along the lines of, but if they weren't dealing with so much resistance, then they would actually be able to deliver on the promises that they made, and those sound good to me. But then, of course, you also have people who just don't want them here, and see some of that stuff as like, just look at the evidence. Like they build a great big fortress and then it gets blown up. This is the sort of chaos that nobody asked for here, and like, what are they delivering so far? It seems like nothing, and. So, like, some of the people that you've talked to so far, it seemed kind of like that's the spectrum, sort of.
Yeah, that was what I was wondering.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is what do we know so far, so that we know,
Yeah,
so that we can canvas a little more
intelligently.
intelligently. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not looking even necessarily at canvassing. Just keep our ears open.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that when the Marquisate came in and took control, there wasn't really a lot of fighting. It wasn't like a military conquest. But part of that's also just because they do
They're-
have an army as opposed to Patchwood, which doesn't.
Yeah,
So, like, how much fighting is useful at that point?
yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, it seems like to me that what's going on in this particular part of the woods is kind of like the first few moves of a game of diplomacy, where all the major powers are grabbing the independents that can't defend themselves first and seeing how much progress they can make on that before the big head-to-head confrontation comes.
Trying to get the supply center so you can build more armies and fleets before things go bang.
Before things start to really come head-to-head.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
And you know, if you're on the side of the independents, that's not a winning side. Um, okay, we've got some time between now and 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
I think I just want to spend the next couple hours
Mhm.
walking around town like I know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm gonna do?
Mhm.
This doesn't sound like the kind of place that's going to give me a lot of trouble for it.
it's banjo time.
It's banjo time.
banjo
Banjo time.
I'm gonna
It's-
go out. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go out on the street somewhere.
You're
Put
gonna
my hat
busk?
out in front. I'm gonna busk.
Bus.
And-
What a lovely word.
Yeah.
That's an interesting tactic because people come by you.
Yeah.
Well, so what I'll say is that like I am not opposed to this at all, but I do wonder how much you would actually be able to glean because it seems like you'd be busy.
Well, I mean, I'll be playing, right,
Right.
and singing, but
You need a wingman to watch
yeah,
people
yeah,
do what they say, how they react.
right, and also like what I sing
Hmm.
is also like
Sure,
a way
sure,
of
yeah.
judging
Mhm.
people. So who wants to come along with me and just see what we can
Hmm.
learn.
I was considering having going around and seeing what protests there are and perhaps seeing if I can find some correlation as to what trees they're protecting.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Uh,
Clem, Peppa.
Either of you want to come with me?
I'd like to come with you. I don't know how much use I'd be.
Well, the point is that while Lancelot will be singing, someone
listen to the
else can
crowd.
be listening to what people talk about as they gather.
Yeah. And you can also be my my ringer in the audience to really, you know, applaud when I finish the song and come over and put a coin in the hat to be the first one there, so you know you'll get that coin back. But
Yeah, I don't think that's quite my strength. I don't think people would buy it if I applaud.
if anybody can be enthusiastic,
Yeah.
it is definitely Peppa.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on, Peppa.
I'm broke, but I will definitely applaud all of your endeavors.
I will give you. I'm broke too, so.
Do I have a coin? Oh God. Yes, I have a
I
coin.
do.
I'm giving a coin to you, Peppa. I'm changing this character sheet to say so. There.
Okay.
Out of the goodness of my black little heart.
I will give it back to you.
I'm just laughing at you know, it was I was re-listening to the last session and it was actually a moment where Lancelot specifically said easy come easy go because sure enough, like you guys
Oh.
collectively had 25 coin like 3 sessions ago.
Yep.
Yeah, it did not
But then
last.
of
That's
course
the-
you had money so you spent it on stuff. So you do have stuff now that you didn't have.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this banjo is worth, you know, like 8 coin. So
We are a well outfitted group of vagabonds.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll go with Nigel. I'll go with Nigel to see if there is a correlation between which trees are protesting and the houses and stuff.
Okay. About you, Arbin, you have your own business, or do you want to join one of those two?
I will join. No, I will join Lancelot and Peppa, although I'm not going to be the one that's cheering because no one would believe it. I'll just be the. I'll be watching and
Mhm.
studying who goes by and stuff. I'll be
Yeah.
the.
Hey,
Look out.
you never know. His banjo playing could melt your heart, and you have a rush of emotion.
Have you met me? Sure.
So the first thing I'm going to sing
Mhm.
is this tune that I heard that comes all the way back from the Erie Dynasty.
Oh, you bastard! You bastard!
Shoot a challenge. What did you expect?
Mhm. Go ahead and roll charm.
Okay. Rolled an 8 plus 3 is 11.
Okay, there you go. I think that um, busking it's not prohibited here, but it's also not really very common. Um, it's a little bit more common that if people wanted to hear music, they might go to one of like the taverns or like a performance space as opposed to just on the street. But you are good enough that it's notable and people are interested and want to come and listen and hear. I think uh, you have chosen a topic specifically to try to gauge public sentiment on the subject of the Erie Dynasty.
I'm gonna do like a song, like really kind of an old Erie Dynasty song, and then I'm gonna do one that is kind of like a common man, work song.
Like 16
Um,
tons.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, not something specifically like protesty, but just like
Okay.
a folk song about just everyday life type
Clementine.
of thing,
Mhm.
and maybe something that's
I'm
something.
proud to be a denizen.
At least I know
Yeah.
I'm free.
Yeah, and then maybe one that has a little Marcusade influence, and just to see,
Mhm.
how each song gets
Sure,
gets.
sure. Um, with the context that you are playing, and so you're not necessarily going to be able to hear specific conversations very well, you can certainly have a sense of the crowd's mood.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, so go ahead and roll figure someone out, which is a charm roll, and so it's obviously kind of
okay.
collective there.
Okay. Rolled a 7 plus 3 is 10.
Okay, so that means that you have a hold three with various questions that again we're applying kind of collectively to the audience as opposed to.
Yeah, yeah.
But these are questions like: Is your character telling the truth? What is your character really feeling? What does your character intend to do? What does your character wish I would do? How could I get your character to blank? And certainly in this context, the character in question is really more abstracted as the crowd of people
Yeah,
who are listening.
yeah. So, I mean, I guess what I we were able to draw a crowd.
Hmm.
It certainly isn't a representative sample. It's the people who are out on the street on this
Yeah,
particular day and time.
right.
But um, I'm going to use the first question: Is your character telling the truth?
Hmm.
To say, are they like holding back feelings that come out when a song comes out?
Mm. Oh, are they afraid to cheer for something that they would otherwise want to?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because I'm, um, and
Are they faking it
and
when they do?
what do they and like I just like
Yeah, so
yeah.
I think that you played an Erie Dynasty song,
Mhm.
and then sort of just common denizen song, and then like a more Marcus 8 flavored song. And I think you got the feeling that
The
that
Marcus 8 song was just for Arbin. I mean, the Yuri song was just for Arbin
oh
because
sure.
yeah.
Well, so yeah, I think that you the sense that you got from the crowd during that song was a little bit like, really? Okay. But it's good. Like, so they like the musicality of it, but there was
Right.
a little bit of a, you didn't get the feeling of a lot of actual like nostalgia or
Nostalgia.
real
Mhm.
sentiment there.
Okay.
You did
Okay.
not get that impression.
Okay.
They loved the Denizen song. That seems like what they were really
Mhm.
looking for. And then I think there was you definitely got a feeling with the Marcus 8 song that there's kind of a mixed response. Um, and that perhaps the people who didn't like it, they just left rather than expressing any disapproval.
Hmm.
But there were some people who seemed like on board and like interested and engaged by it.
Okay. Okay. So there are some people who are. I mean, I think that gives us the answer that we were looking for, was that the people who are working in the treehouse have probably got supporters among the denizens.
Uh, or at the very least, there are people who would share an aim of working against the Marcus 8.
Right. Right. Okay. But um, it's by no
Right.
means
So, like, when,
widespread.
right, and also it's that sort of middle ground of the Marcus 8 is not sufficiently unpopular that you have people acting angry with you or picking a fight or booing you when you sing a song about them, right? It's more just like you get the feeling that when you do that, some people are like, oh, okay, that's not my thing. And then they leave. Um, as opposed to a more like angry response, which could be kind of both things, right? Like on the one hand, you know, it may be partly that the anti Marcus 8 sentiment is not that intense, but there could also be an element of you don't want to be the one making a scene because you're
Mhm.
yelling at someone for singing a Marcus 8 song. Like, but that again, you know, you've seen in the town so far, it's not like the Marcus 8 is running this place with an iron fist. It's not. That's just not
Right.
happening. Like, there's
Okay.
guards around, but it's not a. This is not a fascist dictatorship in this town.
Yeah.
It's
This is nowhere near like what we saw in Iron Bay.
correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that we learned a good deal. I'll close
Mhm.
the show by saying that I will. Did I've forgotten from last session? Did we actually set up that I could play at the road show at the
Yeah.
Roadhouse?
Well, you played the first night,
Yeah.
and that was the only specific arrangement you made was for like that night. But you
Okay.
probably, because that went well, you probably could do it again.
All right. I will close this little show to tell them that I will be performing at the Roadhouse tonight um, at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
So.
Mhm.
So we'll did I make any money?
I think yeah, you got what it was like. It was a 10, right, for your
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, if you're. So I think yeah, let's say you got like two value worth of coin.
Okay. Excellent.
Um,
I'll
uh,
give one of those to Peppa.
sure. So Arbin, Peppa, what were you doing during the performance? Are you just trying to also try to get your own sense of the crowd, or
Yeah, I wanted to see how they were reacting, what they were thinking, if I could overhear any conversations above a whisper, what they were saying about the conversation, their body language, their movements,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
what was the composition of the crowd, who was there, who was stopping, and who wasn't.
Okay. Well, so I'll say that, like, collectively as a group, what Lancelot was able to discern, I'll say that, you know, you were able to get more or less that stuff without really needing to roll for it, especially since you can discuss it with him afterwards.
Mhm.
You wouldn't necessarily have the same intuitive sense as he did as a performer, but you can each, if you want, roll your own figure someone out roll to be more specific to like individuals of that like if you're would you be actively chatting anyone up about it or like introducing a conversation to try to probe them, or are you just listening to what people might just randomly be saying?
Arbin, no, it's not Arbin's strength. So
Okay.
I'm more the observer than the figure than the chatter. That I leave to
Well, that
to
sounds
Lancelot.
like maybe have you do read a tense situation again anyway.
Yeah.
That's
So
more
let's
what
do
you're
that.
doing.
All right, where's my Albertinas? Right. And that is a 10.
Okay. Yeah, so without making it about those specific questions, I think um, you're just kind of on the lookout for things like, there are guards that pass by but don't, and like they notice but don't necessarily pay a special interest to the performance. So they don't apparently see that as a problem or a threat meaningfully. They do
Very
kind
different than the
of,
duchy. The duchy
Yeah.
would not have this stand.
right. Certainly you need to have a license, and that sort of, and a license means that we get to say whether or not you get a license, and
Mhm.
all that good stuff. But yeah, so at the same time, they do notice, though. You get the sense that they are paying attention to the things that are happening, so that if anything comes up later, they know what to kind of say about that. Um, Associations and so on. You get the feeling that they might be noticing, for example, that if they know who you all are, they would be aware
Known
of you, and
associates.
yeah, and that sort of thing. Um, but you also are just kind of on the lookout for anyone who seems to be reacting to the show in an unusual way, right?
Right.
And I think that I think you spot a couple of people who look like they're maybe like they know who you are, but they dig that, like they've heard cool things about you.
We have fans.
Yeah, but at the same time, of feeling a little bit like, okay, that's cool. Those guys are cool. I'm not gonna,
No autographs.
yeah. But and I think that there are, you notice the stuff that Lancelot doesn't necessarily, which is that there are some people who pass by, and you would say that the people who look like they are from the Marquisate,
hmm
um, like they don't. eh, I take that back. I was going to say they seem to be less inclined to enjoy the show, and I don't think that that's true now that I'm saying it out loud. I think though that, um, yeah, I guess you just don't necessarily notice anything dangerous in this particular setup. With the caveat that there is a moment where you do catch, just kind of across the plaza, the eye contact of that one magpie.
hmm hmm
But oddly enough, although you notice him watching, he doesn't actually appear to be hanging out to watch this happening. He notes your presence on his way somewhere else.
We're gonna have to do something about that magpie sooner or later.
What about
Uh,
you, Peppa? What were you doing? I mean, you don't have to have been doing anything. You could have just been enjoying the show if you want.
I think I got distracted and was just enjoying the show.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, so the applause is absolutely genuine. You get 2 feathers up.
On the way back,
Hmm.
it's like, hey, Peppa, now that we've both got coin, what do you want to bet that the magpie that the person that shows up at 8 o'clock is the magpie that has been following us around?
Sucker bet. And if Arbin had given, I don't remember.
I did.
You did give me a coin.
I did. I changed our sheets to do so. Yes.
Okay, so I would give it back to you.
Okay, then I'll change our sheets back.
Okay.
So, in the meantime, Nigel and Clem were going to go check on the the activities towards the Marquisate starting to try to make inroads to their own, demolition of the houses and cutting down of the trees versus the protests. What you find is that the activity that was, directed to trying to cut down those trees and everything has largely been redirected now to salvaging and, dealing with the house that fell down. So right now, the protest that was going on at the previous work site seems to have changed up, because what was happening before is you had a bunch of denizens like chaining themselves to trees and trying to prevent the work from happening. But because the work has now gone to a different location and it's happening a little easier, like mostly what they're doing is dragging out the debris of the house and trying to deal with that sort of stuff. It's a little bit harder to like interfere with that, and also a little bit less obvious that you want to interfere with that, right? So it's really more like they've got a crowd that's kind of gathered nearby and is jeering them, and have some signs that say things like "Don't tear down our trees," tree houses, tree heritage, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But it's all a little ad hoc compared to what was going on before. But that makes sense, given that it is a response to one of the houses in question literally blowing up and falling out of the tree. Well, I say blowing up. You heard what you believe with your own personal experience to have been some controlled demolition going on there. But
Right.
as far as anybody else knows that wasn't, closer to the whole thing, it seems like the house just fell apart in a way that, like, it's perhaps surprising that it happened so thoroughly all of a sudden, but otherwise people kind of know that these houses are falling apart. And so look, there it is, a house fell apart.
Right. Clem will want to ask maybe one of the protesters with signs. Excuse me. What is the story behind these homes? Were they for someone well known from here?
So they, I think first of all, let's go ahead and have you make your own figure someone out roll as you begin to engage with them. That's roll with charm.
That's a 3.
Oh, a 3,
Oh,
huh?
no.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I can't help you there.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, like as this mouse is holding the sign and you ask that, they just kind of narrow their eyes and they say, "What are you, a narc?"
No, I'm new in town.
That one starts backing away from you and pointing at you and whispering to the others. It's like, "I think that one's a narc."
Counterculture hits Patchwood.
And Clem kind of sighs and he's like, "Look, narc on what? What did you do to be narked on?"
Okay, yeah, they're all booing you now.
I was like, yeah, Clem's just like, I've only been in. Yeah, Clem's just like, I've only been in town a day. I helped the farmers and talked to the wonderful Miss Minnie.
Oh,
Like,
poor
I don't-
Clem. This is why I kept quiet.
Yeah, and he's like, I've literally only been here a day. Like,
Yeah. No, I mean, as Christiana, I feel for Clem in this moment.
Yeah.
That's a bummer, especially because it's not true, and yet
yeah,
somehow the way you approached them, it gave them the wrong signals, and they have jumped to the wrong conclusion, and
Yeah.
now the protesters think that you are into trying to infiltrate them somehow and like to undermine them. So they do not trust you at all now.
And it's just like, I just thought it was strange that someone would be protesting these homes being torn down and then one falls down. They seem dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're not going to get anything out of them at this point. Like they're almost like, the more you try to talk, the more they're going to start protesting you.
Could
Is
I?
it the Marcus state that's moving stuff, or is it just other denizens?
No, so it's like they've got some workers that look like probably hired denizens, but it does seem to be the Marcus 8 that is organizing this. Like, because they had a crew that was going to be the demolition and lumber crew elsewhere that has moved over here because of the house falling down.
Yeah.
Can I? Could I? Nigel, read the crowd, see if maybe get some information about, you know, this basically read a tense situation on the crowd since.
Well, I think in
You're
this
getting all riled
context,
up?
though, I think so. Does it make when you say read a tense situation in this context? I think if what you want to know is more like what people are thinking, that is more of a figure someone out role,
Okay.
right? In this context, read a tense situation would be like if you thought violence was about to break out or something.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I think it's more along the lines of you maybe scoot a little bit away from Clem for the moment to
Yeah. Okay. So I guess you know, basically, if they assume that he's a narc, they might be feeling guilty about something, and that's
well
why he would like, I guess, figure someone out. I guess would be what I'd like to roll then.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I got a 7 on the dice, but a -1 in charm.
Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, I think that it's just I think what was your approach? Like what were you just going up to one of the other protesters or one of the workers who are you trying to talk to?
I mean, I wasn't trying to talk so much as just, watch, like try and see people's reactions to how things are going. How, like,
Okay.
you know,
I think that in this context, I will go ahead and just have it be suddenly one of the people who is already sort of jeering at Clem points at you and says, "I saw that guy with the turtle. They came over together." And so you're getting a lot of attention now from just like you hear people saying it's like it's so obvious that the Marcus 8 is trying to infiltrate our organization to undermine our legitimate protest of their operation.
Nigel will open up his book, write a few things down, close it, then go to Clem and walk away.
You get some shouted discussions about whether they should let you write their names down, but nobody is.
Wow, they're trolling us.
But no one is willing to like do anything about it.
Yeah, it's like, man, how did I didn't even get any names? Like
Hey, Clem,
random denizen number 8, random denizen number 9.
Clem, he will take a moment to look and see to try to confirm if he can tell from any marks or anything left on the tree that it was controlled demolitions from the suspected the explosives he thought they were making.
I think that there's not anything you can see from the ground or, at the distance that you're able to get. But I think that you're pretty confident that that must have been what happened. You saw where they had been working on explosives. You know that they had the Corvid conspiracy had been dealing with explosives previously. And also, like, you were in that house. And then as you're coming out, all of a sudden you hear pop, 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 and then the whole house just falls apart.
Yeah.
That was on purpose.
So he kind of turns around and he'll catch up with Nigel and he'll say, I think if we want to know some history about those houses, we might have to go pay Miss Minnie another visit.
Millie, but yeah.
Miss Millie, yes. She knows, she seems to know a lot about this town, and she's been here a while.
Yes, that would probably be so.
Yeah, it sucks though, because I didn't see anything when we were in the house. Like after I walk away, and he's not being very quiet. He's being quiet about this part because he doesn't at this point. And he's just like, they didn't look significant in a way that like would stand out as like royalty or anything. They were well-to-do homes, but just it didn't give me the air of like this was the old fancy king that lived in this wonderful home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, never mind. I was going to say I was thinking Arbin was with you guys, but he was with the other.
Nope.
Yes, it's it might not have been the home of someone particularly important, but sometimes people do get touchy about historical sites, but though it's hard to tell if that was a historical site or something more, or they simply wish to disrupt the Marquisate in any way they can.
Cristiano, are the trees that they had built these houses in, are they the biggest trees around, or are they on par with the rest of the forest around the area?
Well, I would say that they're on the big side for the area, but not necessarily the biggest. Like
Okay.
they're the biggest in those little localized clumps of trees that we've established in this clearing. But like if you go out into the surrounding forest, there are bigger ones.
Okay. So yeah, so they probably took an actual effort not to cut those down to build in. I wonder if Arbin recognized any of the leftover architecture or anything in there that he could provide.
I do believe he did recognize it as very fine Erie dynasty that has been neglected for an extended period of time. So I don't know if there's any particular details about it that he had known.
Oh, Clint will look around to see if they are being followed.
Okay. Yeah. So I think you spot that you. No, you know what? I take it back. You don't see anyone.
It appears that we have lost our tail.
Or Lancelot's made a big enough crowd that he drew the attention. So let's go check and see how that went, because it couldn't have gone any worse than us.
Yes. Well, I'm not saying it couldn't, but it is a lot less likely. Yeah, we'll go
Further
check out the
busking.
busking. Actually, I imagine it's probably we failed quick enough that the busking might still be going on.
I think that maybe we could say you are able to arrive at the tail end of Lancelot's set.
Okay. So,
Good.
so we'll
Happy
meet up
innocence and not
Hit me up.
angry.
what's the matter, Nigel? You're looking over your shoulder like there's somebody chasing you.
Oh, we did not make as good of an impression as we hoped. Our information gathering was cut short by suspicious individuals.
Okay.
Suspicious individuals, and then they were suspicious, or they were suspicious of you.
That
Suspicious
one.
of us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, well, at least that we did learn something, that there are people who are suspicious, right?
Well,
Who are worried about people asking questions.
yeah. I still don't know the significance of why they'd want to protect these trees, especially since no one has lived in those homes, obviously, for years, but that didn't go so well.
Mhm. We'll see
Yes,
what
the
happens
tur-
after this event.
After the destruction
Yeah.
of the house might change the balance of opinion.
Yeah, the
So
markets.
the same protesters that were wanting to protect the trees seem to be against them hauling away the wreckage of the house.
That's odd.
well, to be
No.
clear, they seemed to be just protesting the work crew and their task generally, as opposed to being specifically mad about tearing away the pieces of the house.
Ah.
Because the issue was there was across the town and a bit where they were protesting specifically trying to stop them from getting in there to tear down one of the other houses. And then because that work crew got redirected to go deal with this one, the protesters followed them over as opposed to being specifically mad about taking the debris of this one house away.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
perhaps they just wanted to disrupt the work in any way possible,
Yeah,
regardless of who, what the work is.
yeah. So just a reminder, this is Arbin. What you kind of know of the history here is that without really knowing the specific details about Patchwood, like
I'm not a scholar
in
like
depth, right?
Yeah.
You certainly, I think, were aware that this part of the forest was within the Erie Dynasty's territory back when they were at their biggest. But, years and generations of civil war amongst their own noble families left them with a substantially reduced sphere of influence generally. And so more and more, the more far-flung parts of the dynasty became less easy to defend and supply, and so
Finally left on their own. I'm thinking like in our world, 4th century Britain, where the Roman Empire said, like, you're on your own, guys. See ya."
yeah, it's basically all the more like the noble houses that had their vacation homes here found that it's kind of like nobody goes there anymore. The people who live there don't kowtow to us anymore. It's basically just not fun to be there anymore, and it's a long way, and you know what? Just forget it. And so, just over time, all of the
Yeah.
houses were abandoned one by one for that reason.
Gloria Mundi.
Sick transit,
Hmm.
everything.
I
Yeah.
wonder if by the time the Densons realized that the owners were not coming home or coming to claim their property, uh, the the structures were too degraded to salvage.
Well, I mean, unless you're a bird, there's not a whole lot of great reason to build a house up there.
Well, I mean, I'm talking more, you
Wait,
Were,
okay.
were, were they were
Deconstruct
they
a-
savable? Were they savable at the time the empire was gone? I'm not an architect or expert.
Nigel,
I mean,
Yeah.
Nigel,
well,
if let's say that you're an ordinary denizen like you or me, and you could build a brand new house on the ground where you could just walk in, or you could take over one of those way up there and make that trek up and down those stairs every day with your food or whatever. What are you going to do? Are you going to take over one of those places? No.
that's actually not what I was referring to. That's not
Okay.
what I was meaning. Like, basically salvage the wood from the house to build a house, another structure on the ground.
Well, so the one other piece to keep in mind there is that because this happened slowly over time, there was a long period of time where, by any legal standard, it still belonged to to the extent that it ever did, the Erie Dynasty owners, right? And they just stopped coming,
And
right?
that's what the question was, like,
Hmm.
did in the time before people realized that, they've basically given
Oh.
up
Well,
the
the other
ownership,
thing is
or
too that like wood is not hard to come by. It's
Yeah.
like it's
True.
Yeah,
But not in the
yeah.
desert. Yeah.
so these pre-built houses that are up at the top of trees like it's harder to get the material from there than it is to cut down a new tree.
ah, okay. Yeah, I've just, in real life, I have actually taken part in taking a house apart in
Mhm.
order for the wood to be used in another structure.
Yeah.
Ah.
So I think the issue here is that the houses fell into substantial disrepair long before it was really obvious that the Erie dynasty wasn't coming back.
Okay.
So there was a long period of time, perhaps even a couple of decades, where like for all anybody knew, some Eagle Lord was going to show up with a retinue of 25 guards and show up at that house and be furious with anyone who had interfered with it, even as it was sitting there rotting, right?
With
And it was
now,
only as it became clear that that was
Yeah,
increasingly
I mean,
unlikely to happen.
so with the group that was protesting them,
Hmm.
were they just made up of random denizens, or were there
As far as you
more?
could tell,
Okay, so there wasn't like a large contingent of like birds or anything of
Nope.
that nature.
it was
Okay.
mostly mice, but this is a majority mice
Yeah.
mouse clearing.
Okay. Well, I guess we can go to
all right,
the
well,
to the bar,
yep, let's head to the roadhouse.
Hmm.
and we're doing pretty good, guys. No one's died, so let's hope this isn't a trap.
Oh, no, see, if they wanted to set a trap, they would have send us an invitation to some alley in the middle of, a dark part of town in the
Oh,
middle of the night.
That never happens to us.
That, we know the difference now.
And let's-
Actually, they probably would have sent us, told us to go to a particular, tree or cluster, and at some time at night, and climb up to the house there,
and I'm not gonna have as many drinks as I had last time, because that didn't go very well. I mean, it ended fine, I guess, but
yes, a sober mind is probably better right now. And and Nigel, thanks to the packs of tea that have
I
that,
was just thinking that too.
that have been lifted off of Peppa,
Hmm.
and resist the urge to pat where they're kept on his self.
Right.
That's a good question. I wonder if Peppa's noticed yet.
No,
I
she
believe
did. She noticed
Oh,
in the
okay.
last session.
Oh, okay.
And what she said about it was essentially just like, don't mix up the red one and the blue one. If you want to know which one is which, you better ask me.
And Nigel has really no intention of trying it.
Hmm.
You're just denying her using it.
So, as we are getting into the evening, Lancelot had promised some folks that he was going to be performing at 7. I don't think that it would be difficult to persuade, the hosts to let you do that. But is that your actual plan?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna say, I did some busking this afternoon and told people that I was going to be performing at 7 o'clock here. I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
Well-
So Luciana, the head of the
Yeah.
roadhouse.
It's a little presumptuous, but as it happens, I don't mind.
I kind of figured we have a thing. We have a
Hmm.
thing. I mean, bringing you business, I don't think is something that you're going to complain about.
Well, no. Especially if you're willing to work for tips and I don't have to pay you.
It's worked out well so far.
Hmm. So what is everybody else doing as we get into the like 7:30 range, where Lancelot's performing? In theory, you're meeting at 8.
Sitting
I'm-
in the corner listening. I'm listening, see if Lancelot's playing the same hits, different hits. I mean, he hit me in the heart with going with the Irie Dynasty to start with. I want to see if he pulls that trick again on me.
No. That was,
It was delightful.
I've made my point.
You made your point.
So, is everyone sitting like Lancelot's performing? Obviously, is everyone else sitting together?
I think that they probably would be. Would you?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Peppa would probably sit by Lancelot, but just because she enjoyed the show so much this afternoon, she just wants to have front row seats.
Okay.
You better
So
watch it. She'll have a foam feather and be like, Lancelot's #1 fan. If you keep going like this.
Oh boy.
She doesn't have one now, but she's thinking about it.
All right. So here's the thing: at about 7:30, that magpie comes in,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of makes eye contact with you all.
Mm-hmm.
But then he goes and he orders an ale and some stew, and he sits down at a table with it and starts to eat. And he's clearly watching you, but he doesn't approach.
Yeah. Nigel would have been basically sitting at the table with everybody else, and just book open in front of him, pen or whatever writing utensil at the ready, but mostly just watching everybody else, seeing
Mhm.
if there's anybody familiar or any particular notice.
Mhm.
And kind of leans over to Arbin and says, "Well, there goes our friend."
Yeah, I'm not proof that he's the one that's going to meet us, but he's definitely keeping a very sharp eye on us.
Well, we can leave a space open at the table, and maybe once it calms down, he'll come over. Because I don't think he would want the entire table of us to go over there. That would be kind of obvious.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll bring an extra chair over empty to put at the table. And so that if the magpie wishes to join us, he can just slide in and
Mhm.
make that settle.
Okay. So,
Or whoever else that might be meeting us if it's not the magpie who's
Sure.
not on.
So, the minutes tick by, and you're getting closer and closer to 8 p.m., and, nothing has really changed. The magpie is, where he can keep an eye on you, but he's not approaching. And then as it gets close to 8, Arbin, you are suddenly startled by a teenage mouse. He's short and scrawny and has trying to think what would be the mouse equivalent of acne. I guess it's just he's got a really patchy coat on his face. The fur on his face is kind of like scraggly. And he just kind of like, you suddenly realize when he speaks that he's like standing right behind you and says, "Sir, I am to understand that you received a card today."
Yes. Lancelot, would you still have that card? Or would you give it to
I
one
think
of us?
because I'm busy playing, I would have given it to you, Arbin.
Okay, so then, yep. So I will reach in, pull out the card, and I say, hand it to the mouse and say, "I believe this is the card that which were spoken."
This is your card.
He takes it and he says, "Very good. I'm glad that we were able to do business." And he dumps a little like wrapped up package, and then he just like sprints out of the room. But he's left a little package on the table.
I take a few seconds and then finally undo the package and take a look in.
Inside the package is 5 coin and a note that says, "Don't you have work to do?"
Well, that answers every question I had. Perfect. I will put the pack, I'll put the pouch in my coat for the moment. Turn to my companions and say, well, that confirms a lot.
Hmm.
It is, we'll talk after the set and on our rooms. Right now, let's
Yeah.
just finish the show.
Yeah. I think our magpie friend is a symbol of things getting a little tight. Or
Yeah.
so to
So-
speak. The noose is tightening, so to speak.
Well, the
Excuse me?
magpie, incidentally, does not, as far as you can tell, give any reaction whatsoever to that whole incident.
I think at this point, Nigel will hand a few of the blocks he's been roughly
Making your
doing,
Jenga blocks.
and saying, perhaps I believe, or Clem, I believe you would have the tools to shape these with a little more accuracy. You know, I would like to try a game of Jenga sometime soon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do. Clem arms and head disappear into the shell. Actually, a hand quickly comes out to grab the jingle blocks.
Yep, and put them in your hand.
Thank you. You hear a very echoey thank you from inside.
And there's the music for a little bit has an undercoat of construction noises.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just like that bum 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 bum. Hammer and sawing wood. Yeah. But yeah, so basically, as you're sitting there watching, Lancelot, you're still playing, and the magpie finishes his dinner, and he, gives you one last little look of completely blank-faced eye contact, and then he leaves.
Frustrating.
So once we are back in private. Can I roll to see if I got any more tips at
Oh,
the
sure.
performance?
Yeah, go for it.
Bucks, no way.
Rolled a 7. If I can add my charm, that'll be
Yeah.
10.
Okay. Yeah, I think you get another 3 coin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
Hey,
All right.
Hmm.
have you?
You're gonna have a residency in this
And
town.
then I will actually spend one of that on just drinks and food for everybody at the Roadhouse.
Nice. I think 1 coin it's not like that's not
It's not
like around
extravagant.
for the whole building, but yeah. It's,
No, I mean for us. I mean
Oh, sure, sure,
to
yeah.
supply us.
Well, what I was actually going to say is that this is the second night of the 2 that you paid for in advance, so
Right,
you're
right.
covered for
Oh no,
tonight.
I
but
know
yeah.
that. I'm like buying.
I know. I'm just reminding you all that when
Yeah.
you originally
Yeah.
arrived, you paid for 2 nights. This is the second
Yeah.
night.
Right.
All right.
I wanted to to kind of
Yeah.
keep the owner happy.
Sure. Yeah. She seems to be.
So back when we're back in private, it's like, okay, if they ask us, the plan is to use the cure for the blight to get close to the Baron, to the official.
Count, right?
Count.
Count. Count.
But but I am really starting to get the impression that this is not a guy who needs killing.
I've not seen any reason to think so either. In fact, it seems that if there was any killing to be done, it might be said magpie, or that Robin, or a certain Rhodia. Yeah, I'm just Rhodia.
You got to throw that out there. Not that I
Yeah.
blame you for throwing it out there.
Well,
it's-
she's
you
not
know,
here though, right? We haven't seen Rhodia since we've gotten here.
I
Right.
just hope she didn't go back to that monastery and find those two young lovers. Because I don't think they would
Oh.
stand a chance.
Oh, if she harmed those two young lovers, then I think removing her from the mortal coil is morally
Appropriate.
justified.
But yeah, you didn't. The last you saw her was all the way back in Pinehorn, so it's been a little
Okay.
while. But that said, it was a little bit of an ominous last meeting.
I knew it.
Hmm.
So, I think we should,
Betray the Corvic conspiracy.
yeah, I think that we should, yeah. I'm not sure there's really, we should do something about our tail. And maybe skip town.
Yeah. Hmm. No.
Now,
That'd
I
be-
think we could probably make some friends with this Marcasite if we let them know about what we found in the treehouse and who we found there. It might be worthwhile to try to figure out who the Robin in the Westcote is.
Robin
It's this
was Robin.
mysterious.
Oh, maybe that's what
Dale.
you said, but it sounded
Yeah.
like you said rabbit. So I just wanted to.
Robin,
Yeah,
yeah, I said Robin.
Robin in the Waste Coast.
Yeah.
The Robin in the Westcote, and find out, find out who he is.
Said his name was Dale. He's probably lying, but that's what he said when Clem introduced himself.
Right.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to
So-
do better.
So it might be worthwhile to try to find out who he is, because if he's, someone of importance, and, people who wear waistcoats generally are, that, what we found there, once we've earned some level of trust with the count. But as it stands, I think we're just going to wait to see what happens with the blight.
Yeah, did you get a hit on a solution? And if so, then what can we do with that to help this town?
Yeah, so I think we're in a kind of a wait and see mode. And if our tail asks us what's going on, it's like, well, we are arranging a situation where we can get close to the count.
Yeah, because it was gonna be a couple of days, right? Because we
Yeah.
had to. Yeah, it's gonna be. I think I can't remember if you said it was gonna be 2 or 3 days.
Well, the issue is that because what your blight solution does is it prevents crops from being destroyed by the blight. You kind of have to wait long enough that you would know if that's either happening or not, right?
Yeah.
So because it's not something that happens instantaneously, you're preventing something rather than causing something. So it's going to take probably a couple of days before you'll be sure. I mean,
So-
like even in the morning, there might be some evidence, but it would probably be not enough yet to be persuasive to others.
So
Question.
that would mean that we would probably need to basically re-up our room.
Yes.
So
What if, just in case we have to make an expeditious exit, as Lancelot would say, what about if you transcribe the formula from the book and we can give it to Miss Millie tomorrow
Oh,
so
yes.
that at least the denizens have the recipe? So
Oh,
if they,
yeah, that-
so if it works, they can go ahead and start working on it.
that would have been something that Nigel had done, like
Okay.
right away.
It's
Make
in your
sure that-
it's in your books.
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he would have
Well, like
immediately.
even when you were preparing the material, your initial
Yeah.
batch, maybe you could have.
Yeah. As part
Yeah,
of proof.
and I've
preparing.
got some injury to clear.
Mhm.
Um,
So,
Yeah.
with just one box of injury, one of your fellow vagabonds can expend one box of depletion to restore that.
okay. Who's going to do that?
I can.
Okay. And while you're doing that, I am going to express my appreciation for bandaging up my leg, um, and and express how much I enjoy having you in the group, and trigger my extrovert nature and clear my exhaustion.
Well, I think especially on the basis of you having done so much performing today too, I think all of that's kind of yeah.
Hey,
All right. So I think if everyone's just kind of ready to turn in for the evening, that's perhaps
Mhm.
a good place to stop tonight's session,
Yep.
and we can pick up again um, next week. But let's briefly go through everybody's drives to see if we've got any new advancements this week. So Nigel, you still have ambition and development, and
Yeah.
I think those are
checks in the mail.
yeah. Yeah, in fact, actually, I think that all of you get to mark a one box of notoriety with the Corvids, and that's going to be two for Nigel and Arben just because
Yep.
of their whole thing.
So-
Um,
Oh, that's gonna
Right.
knock my that's gonna be notoriety to 6, which means
Ah,
and I go to, or -2 with the Corvids. The Corvids really, really don't like me. Oh boy.
mhm. Well, I mean, why should they?
No,
Really,
they
right?
have no reason to do so.
Mhm, mhm.
Yep.
But okay, but yes, you've got some of those clocks ticking. But in the meantime, Arvin, you've got Folk Hero, um,
Yep,
and
nothing.
Wanderlust. Neither of those are really especially true this time. Um, Wanderlust and Anti-Militarist for both Lancelot and Peppa. Um, I think that I will give Clem. I will give you Mysteries advance for figuring out what was going on in the treehouse.
Okay. Now, should I think I need to get Clem some charm because he can't talk to people right now. I'll think of how to think about this.
Hmm.
And oh boy, um, the Corvid conspiracy doesn't like me either because I'm at a -2 for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you guys know what you could do about that.
Kill more Corvid conspiracy. Oh wait, no. Yes.
Yeah, if there's no faction left, why does it
Mhm.
matter?
Well, so in that case, then we're going to leave it here for this week. And thank you everybody for listening and/or watching, and thank you, of course, to my players. I love playing this game with you, and we will be back next week for more Root the Role Playing Game on so many levels.
so many,
Yay.
all the levels.